Welcome to the Formula Vee LiTech Systems National Challenge, brought to you by LiTech Systems, BM Promotions, Giant Mandrel, Sharp Clicks Photography, DMC Air Conditioning, Dunlop, and Jamel Cabinetry. Before we get underway with Slim Jim, caught up with the top qualifier for the 1600s, Michael Kinsella.
We're enjoying a massive weekend here for the Nationals at Carco Raceway. I'm joined by the top qualifier for the Formula Vee 1600 class, Michael Kinsella. Michael, congratulations, great race. Are you happy with how you felt out there on the track today?
This morning we weren't too sure because there are a lot of 37 cars on the grid, so a lot of 1200s and then a few slower cars, so we started catching them early. And then it was just trying to find a gap to get a lap in, and hopefully it was a quick enough lap, so all good.
Well, the weather's fantastic today, no doubt, so it's obviously going to assist in having a bit of, nothing else to worry about with wet weather or any slippage and that type of stuff. But again, with that much traffic to contend with, how did you feel through the race? Did you feel they're getting in the way of you getting a faster time, or?
It was a bit hit and miss. Some laps were good, some laps you caught someone, just depended on where you were kind of in the traffic. You kind of just had to look up the track a long way, 500 metres, and see what cars were coming up, then just try and slow down and find a gap. So I'm sure everyone was doing that and everyone was having the same problems.
You happy with the way the car responded?
A bit slow yesterday, and we've just been chipping away at changing the setup for this track. It's only got about 4 or 5 corners, so a small amount in each corner gets you that 2 or 3 tenths that you're chasing. So it's just chipping away slowly at the setup, and across the weekend as all the tyres wear out, so we just work on that mainly.
With the 1600 class, who do you feel as your main competitors on the day coming up to another round of racing later in the day?
Daniel Reynolds yesterday, he was super quick. I was a bit slower. Everyone from New South Wales was pretty quick. The WA guys, there's a few fast guys who run at the front, so we'll see what the slipstream like here out of Kolb and down the back straight, and then see how we go.
Do you enjoy racing at Carco? Have you been here before?
I've been here once before, 7 or 8 years ago, so not too experienced, but just chip away at it and find a good setup.
So with your family and so forth, and the connection with racing, your father is into sailing apparently, is that correct?
In his younger days, he was into sailing and raced 16-foot skiffs. And then we started motorsport and go-karts like everyone does, and then just come and started racing circuit racing in Formula V. So it's a really good category. Everyone's friendly, everyone's competitive. All the cars are very similar. It's just how you drive on the day and how good you get your car set up.
How long have you been racing for, Michael?
Started when I was 10 years old in karts, so long time, long in the tooth. Not driving like a 20-year-old anymore. I've lost a few tenths, so.
Listen, I wish you luck, mate. Have a great weekend here at Carco Raceway. Congratulations on qualifying.
All right, thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Here's a quick look at your full qualifying results for the Formula Vee 1600 category. Slim Jim also caught up with the top qualifier for 1200s, Stephen Butcher.
We're here for the Nationals here at Carco Raceway. We've just seen the running of the Formula V combined category, sponsored by LiTech Systems, and I'm joined by the top qualifier in the 1200 class, Stephen Butcher. Stephen, thank you very much for your time. How did you feel about the race?
Yeah, qualifying went really well. As I was saying before when we were talking, this is the 5th time I've been here for the West Australian Nationals, and every time I've been on pole. So I'm kind of good.
The track suits your driving.
It does. It's always suited my style, and I always said it's a bit like Eastern Creek. So if you do well at Eastern Creek, which is my home track, and it just seems to set up the car, so I nearly haven't had to change the car at all. Just make sure the engine's good and I'm in good shape.
Now, when it comes to running the 1200s against the 1600s, obviously you're being passed by the 1600s through the race. Does that cause any confusion about where you feel you're placed in the game?
100%. It can be a nightmare with some of the slower 1200s. Where we get our speed is through corner speed, and the slower guys get their speed through the straights. So we fall over each other in the corners because my corner speed could be up to 10 k's quicker, but they're 10 k's quicker on the straights. So it really upsets the whole race sometimes when we're mixed in. Tomorrow's not. We're actually separated, which is great. So it'll be a challenge for this next race because we're all thrown in with some of the slowest, because their skill level's not as high as the front guys in the 1200s. So you've got to be careful of what they do and where they go, and if they're going left or right or braking late. So you've got to. It's a challenge. It'll be a real challenge.
So when you're separated for tomorrow's racing, you'll obviously have a better idea who your competitors are. But through the combined race, did you actually feel that who was hot in the 1200 class?
Well, I mean, I'm really analytical, so I do a lot of research. So I know who the quick guys here are here. And coincidence, the guy who's second is a guy called Dave Campbell. And I'm bunking with him the whole week I'm here. So it's going to be who pays for dinner. Yeah. Well, no, probably not. We'll probably be stabbing each other in the back a little bit tonight, saying, oh, you did this to me. But it's just racing, you know. So we've had a little bit of digs for the week I've been here, because I drove the truck over from New South Wales to bring about 8 cars over, from which is Rod Lisson from LiTech. Has been a big help to get this event a run, and also get so many New South Wales cars over here as well.
It's a great thing, isn't it, really, for the competitors here as well?
Yeah, Rod and Kathy Lisson. You know, Rod takes all the credit, but I think Kathy does all the work. He drove him and Kathy drove the truck over to Newcastle or Sydney. We loaded the cars up last Saturday, and then I drove over and got here on Tuesday. So yeah, it is good. Yeah, it is good run. Yeah.
How did you feel about your car in the race today? Did you feel that it responded well?
Oh yeah, really good. Yeah. Just once again, because we mixed in with the 1600s, you get balked by 1600. Next thing you know, you've lost a second a lap. So you have to back off a few times and give him space and try to get a run without having to catch one that slows me up. Sometimes you can use them to the advantage, but that's a bit of a challenge because you don't know if they're going to go too slow through a corner. So no, the car's going really, really good. Really good.
And who have you got in your team to give you the great support that you need when you come to a race meet like this on the other side of the country?
It's really all me.
It's all you?
It's all me. I've been doing it for 30 years. And I've done over 700 races in the category. I actually build these. These are called Stingers, and I built about 20 of them over that period. And I've won 2 Australian titles in the 1200, and I've won 10 state titles in 1200s in New South Wales. So, and I build the engines, I build the gearboxes, I build the front end, I paint them. I do absolutely everything. The only one that's got to put up with you is Mrs. Kerry.
So Stingers will end up being a Ferrari of sorts if you're building it from scratch, correct?
No, not really. It's always been a hobby. I've always had to do another job to work and then supplement this, and then I go racing. Well, I retired about 3 years ago, so lucky I can just focus on the cars. But now I don't want to do cars for other people. I just do them for myself. I just like racing. I really enjoy the racing, and I'm doing well.
Mate, I hope you have a great weekend here. Very successful one. So far, so good. You got the first qualifier out of the way. And good luck today and tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Here's a look at your full qualifying results for the Formula V 1200 category, due to start their first race of the weekend combined with the 1600s. So getting underway for the first race of the LiTech Systems National Challenge here at carco.com.au Raceway, a fully combined grid. 1600 class starting off the front, and the 1200 class are joining them in the tail end of the grid for what is set to be an epic race here at Carco Raceway.
Second of our feature event here this weekend at Carco Raceway. This is the LiTech Systems round of the
A look at your starting grid for the first race of the weekend for the LiTech Systems Formula V Nationals. Michael Kinsella, after taking pole in the morning qualifying session, gets to start at the front alongside the lone Victorian in the field, Daniel Reynolds. Simon Pace and Darren Williams joining the second row of the grid. Ryan Stott joins the first of the West Australians after qualifying Rod Lisson on the third row in 5th and 6th. Dylan Thomas and David Casely starting on the 4th row here, with Aaron Pace and Nathan Clifton out of row 5. Renan Sanchez, another one of the West Australians, starting alongside William Pym on row 6, with Mason Legg and Matthew Harriott on row 7. Vinny Paduano and Kenneth Wyatt on the 8th row, with Cassie Lisson and Xavier Babbage Hockey on row 9. Michael Lloyd and Madeline Matthews start on row 10, and the 10 car of Jason Fowler is not due to start the race. Looking at your starting grid for the 1200 category, the Team Stinger entry of Stephen Butcher starting on the pole alongside West Australian David Campbell. Andrew and Miles Lockett getting to start alongside each other in this first race in the 2 Images by Kim entries, 3rd and 4th on row 2. April Welsh starts alongside Jonathan Scarry on row 3, with Father Bruce Welsh starting alongside Matthew Bierleck on row 4. Callum Lamont and Campbell Gow starting next to each other on the 5th row of the grid, with Jonathan Rudak and Connor Welsh on row 6. Brett and Isaac Scarry starting alongside each other in the BM Graphics and Promotions entry on row 7, with Ben Wilkins and Mackenzie Gow starting on the 8th row of the grid to round out your 1200 field. With the whole field of Formula Vs lined up on the starting grid at Carco Raceway. So many, in fact, that they're wrapped around turn 7 and starting to make their way back up the hill. The green flag from the marshal on the main straight signals that we're set to go. And immediately, a very solid start from Daniel Reynolds from the outside of the front row. We get to ride on board with him down towards turn number 1 as he turns in to cover off any challenge from Michael Kinsella, your pole sitter, and gets to lead the whole field up through the S's in the opening exchange. Plenty of instant battles breaking out further behind in the field, as well as your 1200s fight for position on the racetrack. Simon Pace touching base into 3rd there in the opening lap. Darren Williams back to P4 as they made their way out of turn 4 and over the top of the hill for the first time. Further behind you can see the Lockett cars already losing touch with your leaders, David Campbell and Stephen Butcher, in the 1200 category. With a unique battle for these guys having to race in their own class, but also try and push ahead from the 1600s that sit in front of them. Climbing the hill out of turn 6 for the first time. Reynolds holding a tiny little gap, dragging Kinsella with him, already starting to break away from the likes of Williams and Pace further behind. As Rod Lisson loses touch after starting pretty decent. On boards with Reynolds as he's challenged for the lead by Kinsella down into turn 7. The toe quite powerful in these cars, so you have to manage the racing in the straight line as well. Aaron Pace in the Pace drilling number 9, tagging onto the back of that group as a breakaway from the rest of the field. Out front though, Simon Pace putting on a decent battle up to 3rd in the opening lap and looking to try and challenge your leaders in the early stages. Ultimately settling in behind as Darren Williams tucked into P4. Ryan Stott in the Team Stott number 56 entry, well and truly in the fight in the opening couple of laps, as behind Dylan Thomas, Rod Lisson, Dave Casely and Aaron Pace all joined in for the fight for the remaining placings all the way down to positions 8 and 9 on the racetrack. It wasn't long before these two started to really stretch away from the likes of Williams and the Pace cars, using every inch of the racetrack on the exit of turn 6. Reynolds using that extra momentum to build a run right up onto the back of Kinsella's car and get the overlap as they crest the hill on the run down towards turn 7 before they jump on the brakes. Williams trying to do much the same further behind down into turn 7. Ultimately unable to outbrake the leading of the Pace entries to settle in for 4th on the racetrack.
So Reynolds now back to the race lead is going to be last of the late breakers in a turn 1 here.
Aaron Pace was starting to move forward, getting this tiny move up the inside of Rod Lisson down at turn 1, knocking the West Australian down another spot to join his fellow statesman Dave Casely at the back of this train in the 1600s field. The Welsh clan having a great run in the 1200s category, moving forward on the racetrack. Bruce Welsh celebrating 30 years of Formula V racing at the LiTech Systems National Challenge, having a great time with his family in a 4-car outfit. The battle in the second packs though for your 1600s raged on and on all through this race. As further behind as well, the 5-car of Michael Lloyd, the West Australian, at the tail end of the 1600 pack, not far off getting given a fair old hurry up from the leaders of your 1200 field. Out front though, Daniel Reynolds got to the lead once again and dragged Michael Kinsella with him. And so the rest of the field behind continued to try and play catch-up. You can see here everyone trying to get any kind of slipstream they can as they climb over the top of the hill and descend back down to earth at turn 7. Williams again having another peekaboo in the mirrors of the 50 of pace. Once again, unable to make that move happen. Under brakes into the 7th corner. On Welsh here in the 15 machine. Moving forward, getting a move done on the 32 car of Campbell Gow before they both scattered on the exit of turn 7. We're lucky not to catch up with any of the other cars and have an incident on the exit of the corner. They're both able to rejoin the race and get back in the hunt, ultimately very far down the order, where they would end up finishing 13th and 14th respectively. Back at the front in the 1600s field, Dylan Thomas in the CXC entry, getting the elbows up and trying to move forward on Aaron Pace through turn 1. The Pace Drilling number 9 entry losing a spot in that exchange. And Thomas was looking very racy as well, closing up to the back of Ryan Stott and trying to push forward in this second pack in the 1600s field. While your leaders in the 1200s were buried in a pack of 1600 cars as well, further behind. Lockett, Scary and Lockett fighting for 3rd, 4th and 5th in class for the 1200s. A great exchange. Young Jonathan Scary sandwiched between the two images by Kim cars. But all focus was on this battle out front, with Daniel Reynolds and Michael Kinsella continuing to fight every lap, a different exchange and get in the slipstream and trying to get past on the way down towards turn 7. The battle for the 1200s continued to rage on. Scary on the back foot with the 2-car outfit. Even the Lockett boys pointing forward saying, let's go. Let's try and chase these cars. Signalling to try and work together with Jonathan Scary in the 1200s. The CXC car of Dylan Thomas again trying to look forward and get a move done on Ryan Stott down at turn 1. The margin's so tight in Formula V racing though. One little mistake can be all it takes here as Rod Liston starts to experience that. Getting a fair hurry up from Dave Casely behind. Campbell Gow getting a stout move up the inside, a late dive under brakes into turn 1 to try and get a pass on April Welsh. Ultimately unable to make that move happen on that occasion. Well into the second half of the race, for race 1 of the Formula Vee LiTech Systems National Challenge. It was clear, a 2-horse race out front in your 1600s division as Reynolds and Kinsella continued to exchange the race lead. The fight was on further behind as well as Darren Williams looks up the inside of Simon Pace once again into turn 7. And that sets off a chain reaction as Aaron Pace tries to get up the inside of Dylan Thomas in the same exchange. And a great scramble of cars as they started to navigate their way past a little bit of lap traffic. The 18 Jamel Kitchens entry of Mackenzie Gow just falling into the sights of your 1600 class leaders trying to get through on this occasion. Mackenzie doing a great job of staying to the left-hand side as the whole field raced past her up through the S's. Fortunate spin on the exit of turn 7. For Callum Lamont in the number 91 entry, send him falling down the order, leaving a little bit to be desired on the rejoin from his fellow competitors, but managing to get away unscathed to collect some finishing points in race 1 of the weekend. The battle at the head of the 1600s continued to rage on late into the race. Aaron Pace making some brilliant moves in the late stages to move forward from where he was sitting about 8th in the early stages of the race. Challenging Simon towards the end, but no one was going to get near these 2 cars out front. Reynolds and Kinsella glued together as they climbed the hill out of turn 6 once again. Reynolds get in the draft on this occasion to try and pull up the inside. Further behind, the head of your 1200 field, right there in Stephen Butcher, trying to put the pressure on some of the remaining 1600 cars as Reynolds gets the move done in turn 7 to reclaim the race lead at this point. At this stage, there was only a handful of laps left to go, and quite clear that it's going to come down to the final couple of laps to decide who would take out the top honours in race 1 here. Further behind, your remaining 1600s in a battle with Kathy Lisson at the tail end there. And right at the back of that group, your leading 1200 cars, Stephen Butcher and David Campbell, having a great fight, mixing it up with the 1600 entries on the racetrack at Carco Raceway. And the fight for the remaining placings, 3rd, 4th and 5th, it was all about these three all the way towards the back end of the race. Jonathan Scarry with Andrew and Miles Lockett still putting the pressure on in your 1200s. Once again, using every inch and then some out to the hard stand on the exit of turn 6 for your 1600 class leaders, Reynolds and Kinsella. On this occasion, Kinsella getting the draft and getting alongside Daniel Reynolds as they climbed over the top of the hill. That allowed Kinsella to get the drive past him and get clear in front before they hit the braking zone into turn 7 to reclaim the race lead. Darren Williams making it happen to hold on to 3rd as well down the hill. Finally getting clear of Simon Pace in the Pace Drilling number 50 entry as Aaron joined him right behind. A bit of a dice for these guys trying to get past some of that lap traffic. That was the 32 car of Campbell Gow, who spun earlier in the race. Just going a lap down to your 1600 class leaders. Williams, Pace and Pace with the next 3 cars behind, outright and in class for the 1600s. As much of the same for the 1200 field here. David Campbell and Stephen Butcher battling their way through some of the tail end of the 1600 cars while also keeping an eye on each other, just trying to keep each other at bay in their standings for the 1200 division. Moving into the late stages of the race, a very solid battle started to emerge with daughter and father combo, April leading out from Bruce Welsh in the 1200s field. That would rage on to the very end of race 1 for the Formula Vee LiTech Systems National Challenge. Back on board with the battle for the race lead, Daniel Reynolds this time getting the draft out of turn 6 to just draw alongside the inside of Michael Kinsella's car as they got on the brakes down into turn 7. Reynolds managing to take the lead. There's a view from the outside of the corner as well. The 78 car just pinching off the exit of turn 7 ever so slightly to claim the race lead just as they made their way to start their final lap of race 1 at Carco Raceway. Reynolds immediately took the hint and got on the defensive down into turn 1 to ward off any challenge from Kinsella. Further behind your 1200 field, this led David Campbell in the 58 entry. Just at the tail end of this group here, the 29 of Renan Sanchez holding down 15th in class for the 1600s, but it was Campbell in that black and light blue holding the lead for the 1200s. As your 1600 leaders just found themselves right onto the tail end of the 15 of Connor Welsh, still recovering from that untimely spin earlier in the race. And just managed to get around the outside of Connor through turn 5. And that sent them scattered enough to lock down the order. Out of turn 6 for the final times. Daniel Reynolds holding enough of a lead to just steal a little bit of a toe from some of the remaining background cars. That was one of the scary entries, slowing towards the end of the race. And that allowed Daniel Reynolds enough to get the job done here. The battle was on for third though. Williams and the two pace cars going side by side into turn 7 at the final corner of the race, ultimately securing Williams for third. But it was Daniel Reynolds who secured the win in race 1 of the weekend in fine fashion ahead of Michael Kinsella at the line, and then almost a drag race further behind in the 1600s as Darren Williams grabbed third. Final corner dash as well. Jonathan Scarey managing to hold on to grab third in class for the 1200s. But it was David Campbell who ran it to the line clean to grab the win in the 1200s division, leading out from Stephen Butcher in second, and Jonathan Scarey just managing to hold on for third. A great drag race coming out of turn 7 on the final occasion between Bruce and April Welsh in their own battle. April just managing to hold on to grab 6th ahead of Bruce by the smallest of margins. So here's a check of your final results. Daniel Reynolds taking out the win in the 1600s class and outright on track from Michael Kinsella in second and Darren Williams coming home in third. And then your 1200 field, David Campbell taking the win from Stephen Butcher and Jonathan Scarey taking out third in class. After the race, we send Slim Jim to take us through the grid walk and catch up with a couple of drivers.
Here I am trackside at the Nationals of Carco Raceway. I'm with Daniel Reynolds from Canberra. Daniel, thanks for your time. So how did you feel about the race? It's a fair few cars on the road that you have to compete with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice big field, which is obviously great to have, particularly for a national event like this. As far as the race went, obviously it was very close between me and Michael. But yeah, it's all about the final tomorrow, so we're just collecting points at the moment.
The competition between you and Michael, is that sort of like not only here at Carco Raceway, but does it sort of like translate to the rest of the tracks around Australia that you've been competing with him against?
Yeah, I'd say he's probably my main competitor, but wherever we go, I mean, we do all the national events and it's generally always us up the pointy end. Not to say there's not others, and sometimes we might have bad meets, but yeah, he's always one of my main rivals.
Tell us about your car. Who's in your team and what's so special about this car for this sort of racing?
So a bloke named Paul Corcoran put this car together back in 2002, I believe it was. So, I mean, it's always been a very quick car. It's had numerous different drivers in it, and I used to race against it when I had my own car, but I was fortunate enough to get offered a drive end of last year, and couldn't resist.
As far as maintaining it, do you actually put any variables in the car itself when it comes to coming to Carco Raceway in WA?
Generally, I mean, once you've kind of got the setup right, it's pretty close anywhere. It's just fine balancing, just a little bit with suspension and whatnot, depending on the track. But luckily enough, yesterday it was really quick straight out of the blocks, so we've kind of been able to just run with it as it is.
With these cars, it seems to be the driver's skill seems to make the big difference when it comes to competing. God, these flies are a pain. So when it comes to your skill regarding with this vehicle, do you feel that that's the beauty of this sport, that it's about the driving, it's not about the actual vehicle itself?
Definitely. Not to say the vehicle doesn't play a part, but that's one of the big attractions of Formula V, is that it's cheap and it's affordable, and it comes down to the driver. So it really rewards good driving, and I think it teaches a lot of young blokes that want to progress further to really learn how to drive.
And how essential is the team in keeping the car on the track for you?
It's obviously a key part. I mean, you can't just kind of leave the car in the trailer between meets. You've really got to go over it and look after it. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that Paul takes care of it, so I kind of just get to rock up. But when we had our own car, you've really got to look after it and do test days and make sure it's all fresh and got no broken bits.
You're in a good position for tomorrow's race, which is going to be singly 1600s, which is fantastic. So how do you feel you're going to go tomorrow? And who is your biggest competitor, Michael?
Yeah, no, look, it's definitely Michael. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the others pick up a little bit extra time and maybe join onto the back of us. But obviously, it's very much 75% of the race is just slipstreaming and working together, and then you kind of, put the fight on in the last few laps. So, yeah, if me and Michael drive away, that's great. But if someone else joins the mix, well, so be it. I mean, all the more fun.
Congratulations, mate. Well done today, and look forward to seeing how you're going to race tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm with Dylan Thomas, who's a visitor from New South Wales. Dylan, thanks for your time. How did you feel about the race?
Well, I wasn't at the right at the front, so I probably was pretty upset. You know, what's the old saying? There's one winner, the rest are whingers.
The plan was to win, obviously.
Well, you're always trying to be up the front. A couple of the boys at the front, both Daniel and Michael, are doing an outstanding job, and the rest of us are really close. And Barbagallo Raceway, there's a really important corner down the bottom there. We're not quite nailing that, but it's really close, and literally, you know, from third to ninth is like separated by nothing.
It's not your first time here at Carco, but you said there's a bit of issues with that top corner. So, I mean, are you feeling more accustomed to it every time you come back and actually race on this track?
Well, I wouldn't say I've ever got it right, so I can't say yes to that question. So, but it's a really important corner. We might be struggling a little bit on power, which is not necessarily helping us out of there and the hill up. So we're just not quite getting the toe that we need. That's a driver can blame in a car. You've never heard that before. So, so yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, like, we need to do a better job, and you know, the boys at the front, like everybody here, are outstanding drivers. So it's very difficult.
So did you come over with a team of guys to help you out with the car itself while you're competing this weekend?
Well, this is the Jacer factory car, so Dave, who owns Jacer and runs it, I'm just going to arrive and drive, bring my helmet, celebrity driver, so yeah, so not my car, it's Dave's car. They organise it, they do a great job, it presents beautifully. Yeah, so we just need to try and get it closer to the front now.
We had a tweak of it overnight in preparation for tomorrow's racing?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'll go winch to Dave because, you know, again, one winner, the rest are whingers. So I'll go winch to Dave and say, Dave, what can we do? You know, yeah, we'll play around. Like we're all separated by not much. So, you know, the smallest little adjustment, it may be like a jet on the thing, or maybe a little bit of timing or something. We'll hopefully make it better.
Sure you will. Now, they might have some magic dust just to make the improvement for tomorrow, you know, just a little bit. Now, so with tomorrow's race being separated between you're in the 1600 category, do you feel that's a better opportunity for you to actually, your driving skills to come to the fore? Because with this much of a pack of cars to deal with on the track, it must be very difficult.
Well, to be honest, it actually makes it a lot safer. So, I mean, there was a stage in that race where, I mean, like, there was a pack of about 8 of us together there. I'm in the middle of the pack, and we've come through the lap 1200s, and I had Dave Casely on my left wheel, and I'm passing a 1200, and it's like, he said, I thought you were going to hit him. I'm going, well, I didn't know if you saw him, so I'm trying to get as close to him to give you as much room. So you sort of, it compromises your racing when you lapping cars that are that significantly slower. So what it will do is it'll enable us to not have to worry about that, and therefore we can better race strategise with slipstream and toes and where to pass.
Dylan, great, good luck tomorrow. I hope it goes really well for you, and look forward to seeing you back here on Carco Raceway in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again to all of our partners bringing us the Formula Vee LiTech Systems National Challenge from Carco Raceway. Stay tuned for all of the action coming up from Day 2.